Wicked for Good finally hit theaters and brought Dorothy Gale back to the big screen after decades of anticipation. But here's the thing that's got everyone talking. We never actually see her face even once. The entire movie keeps Dorothy completely hidden, showing only her back, her silhouette, glimpses of her shoes, but never that whole reveal fans might have been expecting, and you can't begin to guess why her face was hidden, as it's a whole lot to unpack. For months before the film's release, speculation ran entirely out of control on who had been cast as Dorothy, and Alicia Weir, who played Matilda in the 2022 musical adaptation, became the #1 suspect. People analyzed her sister's TikTok reactions to the trailer, watching every moment she smiled when Dorothy appeared on screen. Others noticed Alicia wore silver shoes to the Wicked premiere in London, and that detail sent the internet into a frenzy because those silver shoes are a massive Easter egg connecting back to the original Wizard of Oz book. Then names like Maddie Ziegler, Taylor Swift, and Dove Cameron started floating around social media. Every entertainment news outlet was running stories about who might be stepping into those iconic shoes. The casting became one of Hollywood's most closely guarded secrets, protected by NDAs that kept everyone guessing right up until the film's release. But when the credits finally rolled, audiences discovered the truth. Bethany Weaver, a 30-year-old British dancer and choreographer from Surrey, had been Dorothy all along, and most viewers had no idea until that moment because they'd literally never seen her face in the entire film. However, knowing who plays Dorothy doesn't explain why the character's face was hidden, and it's about to get super intense as we get to it soon. But before we expose this reason you can't afford to miss at this point, let's find out why Bethany got picked for Dorothy. Bethany's journey to landing this role is incredible. Back in March 2022, she posted a video of herself performing The Wizard and I on Instagram with a caption that read, "It's not perfect, but brings me such joy." Also aggressively manifesting that one day I will be in Wicked. She literally manifested her way into the franchise, though probably not as Elphaba like she might have hoped. Still, becoming part of Wicked history in any capacity is a massive achievement. The casting process itself was unlike anything you'd expect for such an iconic role. John M. Chu revealed something absolutely fascinating about how they found their Dorothy. During auditions, the creative team put up a sheet and had performers audition behind it. They weren't looking at faces or traditional acting choices. Instead, they were judging silhouettes, studying how candidates walked, moved, and carried themselves. Chu explained that he needed to see if he could guide the performer solely through their physical presence, and that the person had to have the specific youthful energy that Dorothy embodies. That's why they ultimately chose a dancer. Bethany's background in choreography and stage performance gave her the physical ability to tell a story without ever showing her face. She'd recently choreographed the West End production Asmahan and had performed in shows like Broken Wings and Oklahoma. Her entire career had prepared her for a role where movement would speak louder than facial expressions. But here's where things get really interesting. Chu admitted they actually shot scenes where you could see Dorothy's face, and they had options in the editing room to show Bethany's face if they wanted to. The director confirmed they filmed additional footage that clearly showed the actress, giving themselves flexibility during post-production. So why did they ultimately decide to keep her hidden? The answer is now something you have to sit through, as you can't miss anything now. One of the reasons Dorothy is limited in Wicked for Good is that Warner Brothers owns the copyright to Judy Garland's Dorothy down to her clothes and ruby shoes. While the original Wonderful Wizard of Oz book from 1900 is in the public domain, the 1939 MGM film is still under copyright protection until 2035. And Warner Brothers, which now owns those rights, has been highly aggressive about protecting every single visual element from that movie. Here's what makes this complicated. The court case Warner Brothers versus Avella established a landmark ruling that any visual depictions of characters explicitly created for the 1939 film remain under copyright protection. That means Judy Garland's specific portrayal of Dorothy, her exact hairstyle with those precise brown braids, the particular design of her blue gingham dress, even her facial features as Dorothy is legally protected. So Wicked had to walk this incredibly thin line where they could use Dorothy as a character because she exists in the public domain book, but they couldn't make her look too much like Judy Garland's version without risking legal action. The safest solution was to hide her face entirely, use silver shoes instead of ruby slippers, and keep her presence minimal enough that Warner Brothers couldn't claim copyright infringement. Aside from that, Wicked had another concern where they filmed scenes with her face but realized it was too distracting. Chu's team actually shot multiple versions of the Dorothy scenes. Some showed Bethany's face clearly, they had options, but during editing, something became incredibly obvious. Whenever Dorothy's face appeared on screen, the scene's emotional focus shifted. Instead of following Elphaba and Glinda's journey, audiences would start wondering about Dorothy, checking her facial expression to see what she's thinking and whether she understands what's really happening. The filmmakers realized they'd accidentally created a problem. By giving Dorothy a face, they'd given her an identity that demanded attention, and that attention pulled viewers away from the two witches whose story they'd come to see. Every test screening that included Dorothy's face yielded the same feedback. People wanted more Dorothy, more of her perspective, more of her story. But that's not what Wicked is about. Wicked is a revisionist prequel that imagines the complex backstory of the Wicked Witch of the West. It's about Elphaba and Glinda's friendship, their choices, and their sacrifices. Dorothy, arriving from Kansas, is just the inciting incident that sets the final act in motion. She's essential to the plot, but she's not the protagonist. Speaking to the story of Elphaba and Glinda, the musical Wicked has been about these two witches from the very beginning. The Broadway show never shows Dorothy's face either. She's heard off stage, seen only in silhouette during the bucket scene, and that creative choice wasn't about copyright or legal issues. It was about storytelling. Chu said, "I didn't want to step on who you think Dorothy is in whatever story that you came into this with. Everyone has their own Dorothy. For most people, that's Judy Garland's performance from 1939. For some, it might be from the books. For younger audiences, it could be from Return to Oz or other adaptations. By keeping her face hidden, Chu lets every viewer keep their own version of Dorothy intact." Cynthia Erivo completely supported this decision, saying, "I think that's such a wonderful thing to do because then everyone gets to keep the Dorothy that they know." It's actually a brilliant move when you think about it. Instead of forcing audiences to accept a new Dorothy, potentially creating comparisons and distractions, the film lets Dorothy remain a universal figure while keeping the spotlight exactly where it belongs. Ariana Grande even revealed she had fun leaning into Glinda's shadiness toward Dorothy. She said, "I love the little bit of shadiness that Glinda has towards Dorothy. There's a lot going on, and she doesn't really have time to deal with this. She could have told her to take the Emerald City train, but she didn't. That's a little shady, Glinda." After the film's release, Bethany finally broke her silence and shared behind-the-scenes photos on Instagram, giving fans their first real look at who'd been Dorothy all along. Her post was incredibly heartfelt, thanking John M. Chu for choosing her to be Dorothy in this wonderfully wicked universe called Oz. She wrote about it being a life-changing experience and expressed hope that she'd made the brilliant women who played Dorothy before her proud. The photos showed Bethany in the blue gingham dress, walking the yellow brick road with Toto, Jonathan Bailey's Scarecrow, Ethan Slater's Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. But even in those behind-the-scenes images, you could see how carefully they framed everything to preserve the mystery during filming. John M. Chu even hinted that keeping Dorothy's identity mysterious leaves the door open for future projects. If Universal ever wanted to make a Wizard of Oz film that adheres to the Wicked storyline, they've now established that their Dorothy exists in this universe without committing to any specific visual portrayal that might conflict with future casting choices. Bethany Weaver appears on screen for about a minute total throughout the film. She has a few lines, mostly yelling at the wizard to wait for her so she can return to Kansas, but despite her brief appearance, she's now forever part of cinematic history as the Dorothy who connected Wicked's timeline to the Wizard of Oz's most iconic moments. The choice to keep her face hidden wasn't just one decision for one reason. It was a careful move that served multiple purposes simultaneously, protecting against legal challenges, maintaining narrative focus, honoring audience expectations, and preserving future creative possibilities.